So, hello everybody, this is Michael Watson. This is the virtual chapter of IACT IMDHA, and we are meeting on the, oh my goodness, what date is this? The 8th of August, 8/8/17. Oh, and 7 and 1 is 8, so hey, 888, what a special day it must be, auspicious sounding as it is. So I'm excited to be here with you tonight. I have a couple of things just to start out with before we get underway. And that's to let you know a little about logistics. So right now, everybody is muted. I'm going to be introducing our guest for the evening and talking with her for a while about her work with end-of-life issues and clients. And then at the end of towards the end of the hour, we'll open up microphones so you all, if you have any questions and answers for her, you will be able to do that at that time. Just so that you know, this call is being recorded. This program is being recorded. Tomorrow, the recording will be available on the IACT IMDHA forum for those of you who are members, the Mind Matters forum that you can get access to at the website. And if you are not a member of IACT or IMDHA, do not fret. It will also be posted on the virtual chapter group, which is a Facebook group. If you haven't joined that group yet, we'd really encourage you to. It's not going to crowd your mailbox with all sorts of things. Simply what we post in it are announcements about the upcoming meetings and things that are specifically related to the virtual chapter, and the login information and everything that you need in order to be able to join us for these. So when you're on Facebook next time, just put virtual chapter up there in the search bar and click to join. It will take you probably 12 hours or less for somebody to approve you. You have to be sort of let in, but no problem. You all seem to be able to pass muster, I'm sure. So don't hesitate to go out there and join the virtual chapter group, and then you'll know who we've got next month and all that stuff. Of course, I'm going to tell you about that before we're done here. If you are a member of IACT or IMDHA, this is a recognized chapter of that organization. It's also recognized by NLP Florida, which is an organization that I'm involved with here. And you can get CEUs for attending tonight. So if you are needing CEUs from IACT or IMDHA, they will give you an hour for the hour of time that you spend here with us. For IACT and IMDHA, you just log into the website, and when you log in, there's just a place for you to enter your, when you log in with your username and ID, there's a place for you to enter the CEUs and just say that you've got an hour and, here's what you did for it. So feel free to do that. If you belong to some other organization, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they would not also give you continuing education credits. We just haven't really been sanctioned by anybody else in particular. But so many of the organizations will give you credit for anything that you've done that's relevant to your work in the field. And so you might ask your group, say that you've been attending this hypnosis thing online, and and can you get credit for it? So who knows? So I've announced the virtual chapter Facebook group. Check it out. I mentioned in the pre-talk before we started recording that I've been running this class called the Virtual Hypnotist, and we're in the second group of it now. That's going very well for hypnotists that are interested in being able to work online and maybe haven't quite figured out how to do that, or they just need some advice or a few tips and tricks to be able to do it more effectively. And that's going to be followed up by a class that starts next month in September. It will be posted on the chapter group as well, called the Virtual Trainer, and that's for people who do training. One of the things I notice for a lot of us is that we do training, and I know Mary is one of the people who does this. We go to the conventions, we go to the conferences, and we're doing presentations, but at the same time, so are 10 other people. So if you really are a trainer and you want to be able to get yourself in front of an audience, here's an opportunity for you to have a venue that I have discovered will cost you something like $54.99 a month is approximately what I pay for this beautiful place that you see behind me here. Actually, I didn't pay anything for the place. The rent is free, but you just need a good internet connection and then the Zoom software that I'm using for these meetings, and that'll get you in. So if you're interested in training online, you might be interested in the virtual trainer. Watch for that announcement as it comes up. And let me just, oh good, I see that Karen is here, and and she's not muted. Hi, Karen.
Hi, sorry I'm a few moments late. I had a water spill.
Oh my goodness.
computer equipment at the last moment.
Oh, on your computer?
Yes, it's all cleaned up. It's all good. Everything's working.
Well, I understand that Mercury is about to retrograde or something weird like that, and it's kind of interesting because Mary, who is our guest speaker tonight, has lost her internet entirely, and so she's joining us on the telephone. So we're just glad that you could make it and you're here, and you got here just at the right time, Karen, because I was just about to ask you, having made some announcements, what do you got going on over there in that Chicago way that people might want to know about?
Oh, got a lot of great things going on. I will be doing a certification course coming up later this year, hypnosis certification course. But what I really want to talk about, if you don't mind, is the publication of my book. My book will be published September 15th, is publication date. And the book is Magic Words and Language Patterns. Yes, magic words.
Yeah.
And language patterns. The Hypnotist's Essential Guide to Crafting Irresistible Suggestions. How's that for a title?
That sounds lovely.
Now, anybody on the call who would like to be on the early launch team or the book launch team, guess what you get with it? You get a free download of the book. You get an early read of the book. And what I would like you to do is get that free download and give me a review on Amazon. If you'd be interested in doing that, no pressure, no hype, but if you'd be interested in doing that, email me and I'll put you on the list. And between now and, probably in the next week, you'll get the first letter about that. You can email me at Karen@KarenHand.com. Karen, H-A-N-D, like the hand.com.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, when I put out notes after this meeting, I will put out notes on the virtual chapter. I will also include Karen's address. So anything that we give you, like that, addresses and stuff like that, I'll just include in the wrap-up email so that you can, or post rather to that group, so that you can get those things later on as well. So definitely cool. And by the way, Karen, I might add, I've had a peek at that book, and I think it really is quite special. So
thank you. Michael has a featured spot on the back of the book, by the way.
Ah.
A little statement. Thank you, sir, very much.
You're really welcome. Thanks. And of course, also the Mid-America Hypnosis Convention is coming up in October. Yes,
thank you for reminding me. Michael will be teaching there. I will be teaching there. And it's in Chicago. The really safe part of Chicago, by the way, in case you've heard bad news about us. Fake news, some of it. It's fake news, some of it. But it comes up in October, and it's a great time. It's a medium-sized conference, and it's a lot of fun, and it's Chicago's prettiest season. So Michael's doing an NLP class there, a practitioner course, yes?
That's exactly right. It's an abbreviated practitioner course, rather concentrated. It's 2 days before and 2 days after, so it's everything that we can comfortably put into 4 days, but really a good thorough introduction to NLP with a lot of hands-on stuff. So if you're going to Chicago for Mid-America, join me for the hypnosis course, or for the NLP course rather, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. So now, Karen, it is time for us to turn our attention to the amazing Mary Vallei, the lovely Mary Vallei, who got her hair done for the occasion and then lost her internet. But Mary has been in hypnosis since 2007. She has a multi-state practice. She works in Colorado, and she works in New Mexico, and she works in Michigan, and other areas in the Western United States. And she does in-person sessions, but she also works by phone, by Skype, by Zoom, anything like that. And her clients range from 7 to 94 years old, working with individuals and groups and families. And she's an active member of IACT and IMDHA and ACHE and the Colorado Association of Psychotherapists. And in Michigan, she was the president of the Michigan Association of Counselors and Hypnotherapists, and she's an instructor for the Michigan School of Hypnotherapy. So she specializes in anxiety, fears, and stress, and general wellness, and personal growth and performance, and all of that stuff, but also has a specialization in end-of-life issues. And I understand that she's worked with like 500 clients with end-of-life issues. And as soon as I heard that, you had my full attention, Mary, because we have a lot of people that have a little bit of experience in something, and But 500 clients is enough time for you to really get, is to really learn about about what it is that you're doing in ways that I think can contribute to all of us. So well done there. It's curious to me, and I think here's where I'd like to start out with is that I'm just really as curious as I can be about how it is that you happen to even get started in that in the first place.
Yeah, I am. This was curious to me as well. But in my own personal life, I've had at least in this country. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I there? Okay, good. Just want to make sure I don't lose anything else. We live in a semi-rural place right now, and I lose everything all the time. Yeah. But to go back to this, from the time I was 10, that was probably my first experience. And in this country, I think most of us don't experience losing a lot of people in our lives until maybe our parents grow older, or some, once in a while, maybe someone we went to high school with, dies in an accident or something. But most of us don't experience a lot of that. In my life, I started having people in my life from when I was very small that were close to me die. My godfather, from whom my middle name is Michael, I'm named for him. We were very, very close, and he died when I was about 9 or 10. And that was a big shock and surprise. But over time, then my first boyfriend in high school, my very best girlfriend, they died while I was in school, and a series of things. So eventually, all of my family, all my siblings, in various unrelated things, all died in some fashion. And in those experiences, I started to learn and observe my own feelings, first of all, of course, and I started to notice that even though I loved all of these people, and I loved them with the same amount of heart, I would say, and the same depth of love, but my experience when they died, I felt something different every single time. But yet I would hear the people that were caring and good and trying to help us through these experiences saying, because they didn't understand or know what to say, all of the same things you would expect. Such as, well, it was a blessing because he was suffering. Well, no, in my opinion, I'd be saying no, not necessarily. But over time, I started recognizing a couple of things, and I just took them into how I would live my life. So one, I started realizing death is not an end, and I don't know, I'm not saying that we go on, that's for us to find out, once we're not here, if in fact we find that out. But it's simply another part of life. And I started to recognize that we're constantly splitting it as if here we have life and then this other thing happens. Well, physically, of course it does, but it is indeed a part of life that we seldom really talk about, except that it's not something, of course, that anybody wants, or people start to, oh, what a shame, how awful, I'm so sorry, because we don't know what to say. Instead of truly understanding that that really is a natural part of life. And with the people that in my life started dying off, for whatever reasons, I would see, okay, this was just, people say, what a tragedy, what a trauma. Well, it was for them because they died. But for me, I would be saying, no, this is just something that has happened in my life. This is a natural event. So people began to think that's a little bit weird. But when my sister died and left behind 2 small children and a husband who wasn't very capable of handling any of these situations, I began to realize that I should be doing, maybe I could somehow do more. So I simply put out the intention that I've learned a lot of things. I've learned what not to say. I've learned that there are different ways to look at it. I learned that I didn't feel necessarily this deep sadness all the time, even though I still, to this day, sometimes if I'm talking about my brother who died in 1978, that suddenly I'll feel overwhelmed with tears, right? And then other times I don't have a problem talking about him at all. But I thought, well, what you should take away, or what I should take away, is what was the quality of that human being? That was the core of who they were. And so, for example, my brother's core, he was truly just a happy spirit. So I thought, well, if I want to honor his life, I will try to become a happy spirit. If my mother was extremely strong, but really goofy. Well, I try not to be too goofy. I have my share of that already, but I thought, well, I will embody her strength. So I thought that's the way you honor people, and I chose at that time to somehow find a way to do something with that. So I believe I just put that intention out there because I think I do have a unique perspective about what's going on and how the people around it, all of the issues that happen from accidental deaths to long-term cancer dying and various things that go around in the world, and then combined with the fact that I'm a practical person. So those things are also really important to understand and deal with. So I made a point to learn about a lot of different things and just chose that someday I would find an avenue for that, should that be something I should be doing. So as soon as then I started learning hypnotherapy, we had to have practice clients. Sure. And my practice clients told people that I had practice clients. And one night to my door, I was on our homeowners association board, and one of the board members showed up on my front door with his wife and 2 daughters, teenage daughters. And I thought, well, what did I do wrong? You know, what's going on? Why is he here? And they had, one of the daughters' best friends had just died in a car accident, and none of them had ever experienced anyone close to them dying. So they heard I was doing this, and they said, we think that you can help us. And I thought, well, okay. So I gave them what I thought I could give them to help them deal with it, and then also be able to go to the funeral home and deal with their friends and the daughters or the child's family. Mm-hmm. So they told someone told someone, you know, so over the years I started to get more people just randomly. And I believe it is because I put out that intention, and then because a lot of my clients that were there for other reasons would then have someone who finds out that they have so many months to live, or that they have MLS or ALS or all sorts of illnesses. And then it just started to spring, so that somehow I ended up with this huge number of people over the years that have been given either an end-of-life diagnosis, or at least you have an extremely, possibly fatal illness. And then it leapfrogged into, well, it isn't enough to just work with them, because part of what I believe in all of our client work is it has to be holistic. You really, I don't think, we can't interfere with in their lives or interject ourselves into their lives, but that person has to go home to sometimes a situation that's not so great, or one that's so overpowering, and eventually we'll talk about that, where the people love them so much that they smother them to death, literally sometimes. Yeah. And so we have to resource them, give them more, and the practical things. The world out there is hard when you find out you have something terrible that could happen to you, and it's a morass of confusion about what to do. So I also am resourceful. So I thought, well, I'm resourceful. I can provide resources and help people find other ways to make their lives better while they're going through whatever process. So then I started getting, oh, you told my mom, who has uterine cancer, that she could also talk to these people here, you know, about what support groups or whatever. But I need that. I'm taking care of her, you know, this and that. So then it just springboarded, and I have more people probably in my clientele that have had this than almost everything else.
Yeah, you're touching on something that's really dear to my heart. I was in San Francisco in 1980. What year did I move there? 1986. And I was the treasurer of a church there, a church congregation there, a small church congregation. And in 1986, we had 127 AIDS-related funerals. If you can imagine, and it wasn't a large congregation at all. And so I thought, gosh, maybe there's something that I can do to support this. And at first I started thinking about working with people with AIDS. What really ended up happening was I developed a group for friends and lovers of people with AIDS, because the support teams needed support as well. And I also remember, and this is something that you said about smothering relatives or whatever it is there was a woman that lived with us for a while that was just a really good friend, family friend, and she was a roommate of ours. And And I remember when we were talking about these things, one of the issues that had come up was, well, what if one of us, what if it was one of us that had AIDS, and this roommate was really talking about how devastated she would be if that were the case. And I thought, well, God, I hope to hell that doesn't happen. Pardon my language, but I hope that doesn't happen, because you wouldn't be of any support to me if, if I were dying and you were completely unable to manage yourself because of your own grief about that, or dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
The times when you most need to be able to reach out to people, sometimes they just really can't be there. So if I'm understanding you right, just to bring you back to your point, is that you really kind of have two things going on here. You work with clients that are at their end of life, but you also end up working with the system that is around them.
I don't really work with it myself. Like, okay. I wouldn't call a hospice for them, because I don't really believe that we should do that.
I mean, they're the friends or relatives or whoever else is in their life. If people in their lives are struggling with their diagnosis, do you get involved with providing services to other people as well? To like the wife?
I do. Yeah. Yes. So usually what I will also, now oftentimes the person that I'm seeing, my client, doesn't want anyone to know. And the reason why they don't want anyone to know isn't because they're embarrassed, ashamed, whatever. It is, and I'd like to talk more about that in a bit, but because one of the primary things I hear from people isn't like, I'm afraid to die, I want to face the end of my death, and none of that stuff. It's like, I have lost the sense of who I am, and I no longer have a voice. And my family is so sad. When I look in my wife's eyes, I feel like I need to be there for her. So I can't think about what to do, or I'm overwhelmed with the things that are going on in my life, so I can't focus. And so that they look towards, they don't want comfort. They want somebody who's calm. They don't want sympathy. They want someone who's strong. They want a completely objective person who can be genuinely present as no one else can be. And that's our job. Mm-hmm. But what I do, for people that don't, or do want their spouse to come, or sometimes I often go to people's homes because they can't get out, and I do set that up so that it's very much more professional than just let me come into your house like a guest, because it needs to be one step removed for sure. And so I will offer them, come for a free session. Let me just help you, just come for a free session for stress. And then I offer that to everyone. And then they end up usually doing more work on their own, what is bothering them, or how they can't get along without the person when they die. Or I've had people that said, honestly and truly, I cannot wait until they're gone because they were horrible. And yet I feel guilty that I still have to be there and help them out. So that's a big issue that comes up. I've also been in someone's home where they have a caregiver, whether it's a relative or a hospice worker or just a friend or somebody who's helping them, and they want that person present to learn things that they can also do to help them, sort of continue their own little self-hypnosis practice with them to help them sleep through the night or not be in pain, or there are all sorts of things. So I do that. Then I compile enormous, and there's resources out there everywhere. And in my trying to learn, and I talk about this in a lot of different workshops and with other therapists of various kinds, because it is such a issue that people don't know how to deal with or don't know about. We don't know, and I won't go into that, but Medicare does a lot of odd things. If you get a 6-month end of 6 months, you won't be here anymore, diagnosis from 2 physicians. People have to deal with that. They don't know that there are resources available, that there's a center called the Death with Dignity National Center that provides all kinds of resources. Hospices are not all equal. Some are way better than others, and some are allowed to do from their own contracts or whatever, this or that or the other helpful thing or not. So caregivers don't know. Then families get involved with, I had a person who was explaining that one of their relatives had a do not resuscitate order. When he was in distress, he changed his mind and said, call 911. Well, they called 911, but the family was like horrified. And then it's like, well, make up your mind. We don't know what to do for you because you keep changing your mind. So it's like, oh my. Or I even saw a thing where, what is it? The Brokaw, the announcer that was on, I can't think of his first name, that we saw on TV all the time. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, he had a round of cancer, and he was talking about how his daughter, one of his daughters, is a doctor. But when he finally told the family, they got so involved about, now you need a living will, and you need this, and you need that, and then they would even, and this happens all the time in families, they fight over what? You're not going to get that, or you want this, and most of us don't really know what we're talking about. So I compile all of these resources, and I make a nice clear sheet, and it's work because you have to keep up on the updated information. And to every single person, when I say, even if this is nothing that relates to you, I have this list of things that I want to give to you, and I want to give to, or here's another copy to take home to your wife, or if there's caregiver is there, of things that can help you through this process. So you can, and I explain, you can remove this from your family. You don't need to have your daughter call an attorney for you. You can do this, that, or the other thing. Then I do make contacts with as many places that are local where there is a person, so that I tell them who I am, what I'm doing, see if I can have a specific contact or at least a name or two of somebody, so that if my client or their caregiver or a family member calls on their behalf and says, gee, I need help doing my living will, or I don't understand at all about where I could go and learn about mesothelioma, what do I do? That you'll talk to them. So that helps a great deal. So you're trying to provide that extra support so that their life is better, their life is easier, and their caregivers' lives are easier, because most caregivers think I have to do it all. And most of us don't know how. We don't know what to do. So this helps a great deal. The offshoot of that is the local people at least know who I am. So then they start also referring people to me. Here's this woman that you should go talk to. That isn't why I did it, but it is something that's worthwhile. So I do that really with all my clients with just general issues. But there's so much that's involved besides the fact that the person is. So just imagine, if you had, unfortunately, have gotten, like you had this horrible disease, or you may die within so many months, and so many doctors will still put that time stamp, your end date on your forehead, which I talk to, sometimes I do talk to physicians, and most of the patients or clients that I have will sign a paper that also maybe I should talk to their physician just to get some additional information. Well, in my little world, that gives me the okay to then say, this is what my client's doing, and if you're willing, I would like to tell you some language and terminology that you could reweave, so that when my client comes to see you the next time, blah, blah, blah. And most people are very, very open to that, and they've just never thought about it or don't have time to think about it. So I spend a lot of time doing those kinds of things, little ways around their existence to help make it easier. But it's very difficult out there, and there's so many things we think we know about what to do and how to do it. So imagine if your doctor is a cool doctor, didn't give you a date, an end of sell this by, date on your forehead. Yeah. You still have to figure out what to do. If you're on Medicare, 6 months is up, my Medicare, they'll pull that out. What do I do then? I live 6 months in one day, I have to re-up. You have to do that. Those are difficult things. So the person's dealing with that. And when do you have time then to either try and choose? Some people choose to keep themselves alive, and other people choose a lot of other things. And one of the biggest things that their intention becomes, or their suggestion, is just that I still remember who I am. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people say that. That's what they want me to help them do. Wow. Or I want to be able to be in charge of my life, because your life not only literally could be slipping away, but in your daily life it slips away. Your family, your caring daughter thinks, I better do this for you. You'll get too tired. Well, maybe not, and it's well-meaning, but often misplaced. Families start fighting because they think, well, gee, she shouldn't do radiation. She should be doing the chemotherapy, but she wants this, she wants that. How come she's not doing that? Why are you encouraging her to not do this? And the person is there. Yeah. They have no voice. And that's one of the biggest things that people come for. I want to know what I want before I die. Mm-hmm. A lot of people want to know, how do I resolve issues that I never dealt with? Or how do I come to terms with things that I'm running out of time and I always wanted to be, whatever. And I actually have a very much elderly gentleman. He's like pushing 80, and he still ice skates, but he wants to be a figure skater. So he said, how can I ever do this now that I'm 80 and I'm going to die? Well, he is in fact still alive, and he's going to the community center where they have an ice rink, and he is learning how to figure skate. And it's like, okay, great. As I said, don't call me and tell me you broke your hip now. Just be careful. But people want all sorts of things. I have never had. Pardon me?
As they say, go figure. You are so you're working in a situation where sometimes the clients that you're with are just there by themselves, and you're doing hypnosis with them. But I imagine sometimes then you have caregivers around and in the room, and and there's this kind of logistic thing that that really could influence your sessions. How do you handle that?
Well, usually what I do is I will tell them, I talk to the person and say, okay, well, usually they'll have someone bring them in. And I've only had one person who was totally bedridden. Most people which also is a surprise to me, because my first person in Michigan, I saw her daughter for one reason, and then her mother did get mesothelioma, and she saw me, and one of the mother's 3 dying wishes, and I always wonder, well, one was to get a picture that she loved and have it hanging in her bedroom. That was easy. One, she would not reveal to me or to her daughter, so no one knows what that was. The third one was to try hypnotherapy, and I thought, well, that was interesting. So her daughter had come to me, so I went over to the house, and I saw her on a Wednesday. She died on a Saturday, but she looked completely normal, except for the fact that she had a little oxygen tank. But she seemed fine. She could walk, she was eating. So it's surprising sometimes. So what I do is I tell them, you find a place in your home that's very private, very comfortable for you, and I just give orders, basically. There will be, unless you have an oxygen something, and a lot of people don't have any kind of machinery happening, it will be quiet. We'll turn off all cell phones. The person may be present with your permission. And some people say, I want you to teach them how to do some of the stuff with me once you're gone, so I can sleep at night or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I say, we have to get their permission. I have the form that person will have to sign, and I do ask them to sign the form that their caregiver, their wife, their whomever will be able to be present. So that's just all, super professional. I make them pay basically up front. I have the bill, and I'll say, I'll leave it here, or I suggest it's just easier for you to have somebody write your check or whatever it is, beforehand. Never a problem. I always try to look nice, just as Michael said. I really tried to look nice. I look good on Zoom tonight, so I dress up a little bit better than I always look nice, but I dress it up step it up a little bit more if I go to someone's home, because they really want somebody who is outside their sphere, outside their empathy level of other people, outside, you get what I'm saying. Sure. So I step that up, lay it down. I tell people I need a straight back chair if you've got one. We can put it next to the bed or the chair. So I set it all up and try to make it as formal and personal as possible. And I'll make a big deal about, it's got to be a very special place where you feel very comfortable and really private, and that you feel at home in, and of course it's going to be their bedroom or the den or something. But if you use the terminology to make it seem super important, then it has already more impact. And they feel like, finally, something removed from my daily life. So that is what I do. If the caregiver is present, I'll say to the client, let me talk to them a little bit first about what we're going to do. Is that all right with you? And then, and I've never had any kind of, gosh, this is weird, or resistance from them. People want to participate. Sometimes, like in the case of the lady with mesothelioma, she really only wanted, what she wanted was to die in her big giant bed, and that's how she described it, where she had slept for 52 years with her husband who preceded her in death. And she said, I want to die in that bed, but when you have this disease, it's hard to lie down flat, because then you start to choke, of course, or you can't breathe. And she goes, so then I get afraid, and then I wake up. So she goes, really, all I want is that. Well, I'm looking at the room, which is something else you can do, and I always look at the person if they're in my office. What else might I help them with? One lady had severe ALS, but not yet to the point of being in a wheelchair, and she was walking because she was too embarrassed to use a cane. So I noticed that. So I said, they have these really cool canes, and actually they did in this store in the complex down the way from where I was. So little suggestions. For the mesothelioma lady, her cord, or the thing that pulls the oxygen out, right, was too short. And I said, where did, you're to the caregiver, you can ask the place that she rents this from to just provide a larger oxygen cord so she'll have easy flow at night, because it wouldn't reach up to the bed. So it's like, okay, that's a simple thing. And the caregiver smacks her head like, oh my gosh, I never thought that. So there's all these extra things. But anyway, it was really, that was something easy. So then with the caregiver there, I said, you just do this with me. Can you count from 10 to 1? And of course she could. So I said, all right, let's just start counting from 10 to 1. It's really easy to do. So you sort of teach them some of the little things, and some people don't want to participate. They just want to sit there and listen, and that's fine. And I tell them, I said, that you will not say a word. You will just sit there. A lot of people want to have their pets with them. That's totally fine and appropriate. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have also just a huge number of people that are able to come in, and they want to come in, and get away, from what's going on in their home.
Yeah. Mary, there are a million other things that I would love to ask you, and I noticed just the clock is ticking away, and we're only 8 minutes away from closing. so I'll tell you what
sorry.
I want to do is I'm going to give people a chance if anybody has a question for you, and for those of you who are in the participants audience, the best way to do that. There's two different ways that you can let us know that you have a question, and then we'll open up your mic rather than opening up all the microphones at once, because that will mess up our signal. So the way to do it is at the bottom of your screen, there's a participants window. If you open the participants window, you'll see all of our names and everything. But also at the bottom of that window, there is a little button that you can click that says raise hand, and then we'll know that you have a question, so we can identify you. Or you can open the chat window, and just in the chat window, if you'll just type "I have a question," so we'll know who it is. Then we'll be able to let you ask your question. That's the best.
Yeah, and also to that point, am I still on?
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
You're on.
Anybody that you can find my phone number and my email, and I'm always happy to answer other things afterwards. But before we do the questions, there's one thing I did want to say about special technique, if I may.
Yeah, please.
One, I never ask anybody to fill out any paperwork. I'll ask them a few questions, and then I do have them sign the disclaimers and permission to work with them, because that's all they are a bunch of forms, medical form after medical form, so you don't have to do that. The other thing I do is I ask each person to tell me, because you want to keep them grounded in while they're still alive, right? And remind them, they want to be reminded, who am I? So I have them say, give me 10 things that you really love about life, period. And then I use them in the induction. So whatever it is, you can say 10, you're fly fishing on the wherever, and you include that in, and then build those same things into their images if that's what you're doing in their sessions. So that's one special thing that you can do.
That is lovely. All right. So I'm not seeing anybody asking any questions yet. So I'm gonna pick one. I'm sorry. Somebody just said I have a question. I think I heard that.
Hi, Mary, it's Karen. And I'm just curious if anyone ever asks you if hypnosis, either the client or anybody from the family, ever asks you if hypnosis can actually save them or change the outcome. Because people often think it's magic. Can you cure?
Yeah, often they do. But when I talk to them initially, I make sure they understand that it isn't magic. And I explain a lot of things. Some people do. That is what they've chosen. They want to change the outcome. And that often happens. I know that there are many people that have been given. One person I was just thinking about, and I'd forgotten about him. So I wondered, several years ago. And they gave him 3 weeks. Are you listening? 3 weeks to live. And that was in 2011, and he's still alive. And that is, in fact, exactly what he wanted. I want to change this outcome. So part of what you do there is then teach them how to connect to their body, how to choose. And my question to them is why? If you could change the outcome, what would that provide for you? And that is what they want. And in choosing and visualizing that, that is probably what can keep you alive. And that is more key than, I will make myself live, which I've never heard anybody say. But most people don't ask that. They want something else. I've never heard people have me cross over. I've had people that I know are from various different religions. They never talk about that. But what I also try to do instead, again, they want somebody who isn't them, and they want from you something that they can't get from someone else. And what I try to do, and this is really important because a lot of people that work with people that are dying or just clients with sad cases, have so much empathy that you almost can't do it. So the first rule of business is be fully present. And what I learned from my own life experiences is what that means is not just don't do your grocery shopping list and think about the horrible client maybe that you just had or something and listen to what they say. That's part of it. But you choose somehow from your own being. This is one of the most genuine moments you'll ever have in life, to work with somebody who is asking you to give something from you. It's really like one spirit to another, one soul to another, without facade, reticence, lies, fear. They want something. And they either will tell you what it is, I need courage, or I need strength, or I need peace of mind. And you can share that with them. So I will choose and to just dig it out. I don't know how that happens. There's no label or term that I want to give to it, but it's like I just choose to share, whether I understand what I'm articulating or not, this deep piece of myself, and so they can walk away with this extra boost of courage, this extra boost of strength, whatever it may be. And it's sometimes you feel physically like, oh my God, what just happened to me? But then it's an energizing, beautiful thing. And so it's odd to say that perhaps, but it helps you not be, they don't want sympathy. They don't want to see that sadness in your eyes. They want more from you than just the hypnosis piece that they're trying to change themselves. And so that is very important. And that in and of itself, I think often will do that with all of our clients. We can do that, but especially now, change the structure of what's going on and how they think and feel and behave. It's like if you were getting an extra vitamin B12 boost, right? So this is just like a soul boost or something, if you want to think of it that way. But yeah, I've never really had too many clients, Karen, to go back to your question, that really just want a magical result when it comes to this. A lot of other times I do, but this isn't kind of not one of them.
Yeah. Isn't it nice that you have? That was a great addition to it too.
Yes, absolutely.
So actually, you really have answered one of the other questions that was important to me, at least, and that was, how do you take care of yourself? I would think that this is really emotionally exhausting, and what I'm hearing about is that you come at this with an attitude that really allows you to get to draw strength from the work that you're doing as well.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because I still try to do that with all my clients. What I truly believe about how we interact, and this came to me working with the clients that may be dying or have some debilitating illnesses, really is from my life experience that, wait a minute, this isn't about dying. This is helping a person live. So what could be more energizing and uplifting and strengthening than that? And no client wants you to grab a hold of their stuff, or anything like that. So if you want to provide someone in front of you strength, then you need to be strong. If you want that person to feel happy, then you need to feel happy. You need to embody the things that you want to help give that person. So every time you set that intention, when I see them, I say, I will allow myself to somehow know, even if cognitively I don't, what they need most from me as a human being, from one open spirit to another. And I do that with really pretty much every client, so you don't pick up their stuff. So that's how you take care of yourself. The other thing I do is I just learn as much as I can about really any issue that comes across my desk, that I work with, and especially about the morass of stuff one would have to deal with if you get an end-of-life diagnosis. And hopefully we deal with some of it ahead of time, but it's difficult. And family issues. And the more knowledge you have about all that stuff, the easier it is for you to hear some of the awful things that people go through and that they may need, and then you can provide some little bit of source of help toward that. So yeah, I find it very strengthening, very uplifting, and it helps me actually be a better human being, I hope, and I feel that it does every single day. And I just, it's that sharing of, and there's no more genuine moment than that. When someone tells you, I think I might die, and they come to you to give them something in return. And I just find that a blessing and a really magical sort of thing. It's very cool.
Sure. So I want to let everybody know, I have just put Mary's phone number and her email address and her social security. No, I didn't put that part. And her, and her web address in the chat window. So if you're not looking at that, you can click on the down at the bottom of the screen where it says chat and see the chat window, and that information is there for you. I wish we had more time. So I will just to make a point. I appreciate your compassion. I appreciate the wonderful work that you do, and you really have found a particular area of concentration here. I think that is very special, and one of the few. It's one of those things that I would have to call a ministry. It's really, it's really what it looks like from here. It also occurs to me from a strictly business point of view that that coming off of Karen's question as well, is that there is a sequence in people's lives, perhaps, where they receive some sort of a diagnosis, and their first response, of course, is to try to recover or to not have that condition get them, and then the next thing might be the end of life work. And after that, by the way, there is probably within that family or within that system, perhaps some grief and loss work to be done. So I see around this issue other, both before and after the end of life, other work that hypnotherapists really can be involved with, and that is so seriously needed. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's a chance to change, and this is kind of like my little mission, to change how people regard how we die, to regard that death, to learn that death is not really an end, it may be, but at this end it certainly physically is, but it's something else. It is just a natural part of what goes on with life. And when you feel that and know that and believe that, your whole life is a lot easier. Now, I don't want to get an end-of-life diagnosis for sure, but at the same time, I want to help educate people, including the caregivers and the doctors and the support group people that I talk to on the phone, or the hospice group. Wait a minute, it's all so sad all the time. And of course it is, but there's also more to it than that. So part of my own little private mission is that. And then, of course, the grief work, of course. And people also need in the grief work to be like the woman that I had said, I can't wait until this guy dies. He was horrible to me. And to be able to say that and not walk away feeling for the rest of your life like you're scum, that kind of thing. So that's part of grief work. So yeah, it opens the door to lots of things. And from a very practical nature, it's a very benign, very natural way to keep your practice going just by intention and by having the desire to do a particular type of thing. And then you don't have to worry about, should I advertise? How do I market? You're doing it because it's genuine and real to begin with.
Yes.
And then it just comes. Yeah. And it does.
How lovely. How lovely. All right. So don't go away, Mary. We want to say goodbye to you in just a minute, but let me just quickly remind everybody, this session has been recorded. The recording will be available tomorrow on the Mind Matters Forum for IACT and IMDHA members. It will also be posted on the virtual chapter group on Facebook, so you can get it there. And if you're a member of IACT or IMDHA, claim your CEUs by going out to their website for being here. Next month, by the way, Karen Hand, are you there? Tell us about next month's program.
Oh, it's going to be cool. We're going to be talking with Larry Garrett, who has been a hypnotist in Chicago since 1970. He's literally hypnotized thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I have a question for you. Michael, answer this one for me. Where were you on 9/11?
Oh, you mean September? Oh, yeah, where was I on 9/11? I was at home. I was in fact woken up by every telephone in the house ringing, and a friend of ours that was hysterical, trying to get our attention and get us out of bed. I live in Florida on the California clock, so so I was sound asleep when it first happened. The phones rang. I turned on the TV and I saw the second tower get hit.
Well, Larry Garrett was in Baghdad at Saddam Hussein's palace, hypnotizing Uday Hussein on 9/11, and watched the coverage on Uday Hussein's ham radio. How frightening.
Wow. Yeah.
Larry will talk to us about that, and that's amazing in and of itself. How he got there, why they contacted him, how you hypnotize the devil, which is Larry's book, by the way.
Yeah.
Or hypnotize the enemy. But we're going to talk about how you can possibly, he didn't know when he went there that that's who he would be hypnotizing. But when he found out that's who it would be, he went ahead with the plan because someone needed his help. Yeah. And so I want to find out from Larry how you set aside any preconceived notions about a killer or a rapist or a criminal or whomever, whatever you find out about your client, because we find out things about our client that might not be pretty, that they wouldn't tell anybody else. How do we set aside our personal opinions and go ahead and do the job that presents?
Sure. And then we find out a great deal about ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will be lovely. So that's going to be the 12th of September, same time, same back channel, same link, all of that stuff. And it'll be announced on the virtual chapter Facebook group as well. And so please, y'all, come back and join us for that. So with all of that said, the only thing that I can think of is to say, Mary Vallei, we really are happy that you were with us tonight. It was wonderful. I'm sorry that we didn't get to see you.
Me too, and thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this and hope I get people energized in doing the work.
Now, do you offer any classes or anything in this kind of work?
I have. I'm not doing anything right now. And as you noticed, I work in lots of different places, so I'm kind of on the go between here, there, and everywhere. But I'm not. I've done a couple at the Florida conference workshops on that, but I'm probably going to do some more. But if I do, I'll let you know when I'm having something for sure.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you so much. And now here's what we do at the end of every program, something that is really wild and reckless, is I'm about to unmute everybody, so all of these microphones will be open, and we can just give a big cacophonous shout out and tell you all how much we love each other and say good night. So good night, everybody.
Good night, people. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. And send us a picture.
Thanks a lot, y'all.
Yes, good point. Bye.
See you next month.